screen is black. A whisper pierces the silence. Some families are not meant to exist. Then, a flash. A pale child, eyes too wide, staring from the corner of a dimly lit room. Something moves behind them, something not human. A door slams. Silence. This was the Fairmont estate, perched on a desolate ridge outside Salt Lake City, where neighbors claimed no one ever truly lived, and fewer ever left. Rumors persisted, but no official record survived, except for what the Fairmonts left behind. Scattered journals, bloodied clothing, and the faint scent of decay that lingered in the house for decades. In 1878, Utah was a landscape of hope and hardship, the frontier stitched together by pioneers seeking salvation and survival. The Fairmonts arrived quietly, as if summoned by the mountains themselves. Official documents list them as industrious settlers, contributing to the town's growth. Yet, behind ledger entries and church contributions, there was another story. Whispered warnings in town meetings, children vanishing without notice, and a lineage said to carry a blight, an unnameable deformity, partially hidden in plain sight. Contemporary newspapers avoided the name, yet the rumor persisted, a shadow of dread lurking in footnotes and parish logs. A photograph from 1881 shows the Fairmonts in their front yard. At first glance, a respectable family of 8. But the eyes, they are not uniform. There is a cold intelligence, a predator's sharpness in some, a hollow emptiness in others. Family lore hints at generations of inbreeding, not just for land or wealth, but for something darker, an obsession with bloodlines that could transcend mortal understanding. Visitors to the house described a chill in the air, as if the walls themselves were watching. Some claimed they heard whispers echoing from the hallways, voices speaking in tongues, children laughing, crying, chanting. None dared stay overnight. Records reveal a hidden network of orphanages tied to the Fairmonts. Children were taken from distant towns under vague promises of education or care. Few returned. Those who did spoke in fractured sentences of the rooms that moved, the teachers' eyes that followed them, and strange rituals at night. Local authorities turned a blind eye, or perhaps they were instructed to. Documents suggest letters between clergy and the Fairmont patriarch, discussing the proper preservation of blood, a phrase that would horrify any modern reader. It's unclear whether the town feared them, revered them, or was simply too small and isolated to intervene. In 1902, a renovation revealed a hidden door behind the study's bookshelves. It led to a subterranean chamber, walls etched with symbols resembling no known language, floors stained dark. Archaeologists visiting decades later noted traces of human remains, though no one could confirm identities. The air remained thick with copper and rot, as if the soil had absorbed decades of secret torment. Oral histories spoke of children raised in that darkness, emerging altered, with eyes that reflected knowledge far beyond their years. The Fairmonts maintained a peculiar relationship with the local church. Sermons praised their generosity, but behind closed doors, clergy journals hint at unease. Priests wrote of strange murmurs, and children behaving in ways unnatural, almost predatory. Letters discovered in the 1930s revealed veiled warnings. The church had knowledge of rituals and genetic experiments but allowed them to continue, perhaps out of fear, perhaps complicity. Parishioners recalled that the Fairmont children were never disciplined like others. They seemed to operate under different rules entirely. A shadow of authority loomed over the town, suggesting the church's moral compass had been corrupted by generations of secretive influence. Accounts from 1879 note the first recorded disappearances. A boy named Elias, 7 years old, vanished after a stormy night. Witnesses said they saw him enter the Fairmont estate, but he never came out. Search parties found only the faint echo of laughter deep within the house. Families whispered of a hidden inner world within the Fairmont property, where children were kept isolated, monitored, experimented upon. Fear became systemic. Neighbors stopped asking questions. The Fairmonts operated in the open while their horrors remained invisible. Family journals reveal the patriarch's fixation. He believed their blood carried a divine secret, a form of knowledge that could only be preserved through isolation and controlled lineage. Each generation was monitored, each union calculated. Children exhibiting undesirable traits were hidden or removed from society. The obsession was both meticulous and pathological. The townspeople spoke of the Fairmonts with a mix of awe and dread, a line of humans who were more idea than flesh, whose very existence questioned the natural order. In the late 1880s, visitors occasionally glimpsed the Fairmont estate lit with candlelight at odd hours. Neighbors reported chanting and a rhythmic drumming that vibrated through the hills. Those who peered closer described unsettling scenes. Children in ceremonial robes, adults observing in silence, strange symbols painted on walls. Some claimed the children appeared altered afterward, silent, calculating, eyes reflecting a knowledge too advanced for their years. Scholars later suggested these rituals were both psychological conditioning and early experiments in heredity, blurring the line between science and madness. Orphans returned from the Fairmont network were seldom the same. Some lost the ability to speak fully. Others developed heightened senses and unnerving intelligence. Town records describe odd behaviors. Staring for hours without blinking, mimicking adults' gestures in ways that suggested early training, almost ritualistic. The pattern was unmistakable. The Fairmonts weren't merely raising children, they were shaping them into vessels for their obsession. The town's authorities remained indifferent or complicit, allowing a cycle of trauma to continue for decades. Travelers reported hearing whispers while passing near the estate at night. The voices were often described as not quite human, blending laughter and lamentation, urgency and command. Locals said the hills themselves had absorbed decades of suffering, a kind of echo that could manipulate perception. Children who wandered too close would return pale and trembling, often unable to speak of what they had seen. The estate became a psychological trap, a locus where fear and curiosity intertwined in ways that kept outsiders at bay. In 1910, a local physician kept detailed records of Fairmont children brought in for illness or injury. The files mysteriously disappeared after his death. Rumors circulated that he had documented physical anomalies, skeletal irregularities, unusually rapid cognitive development, strange pigmentation, and other unexplainable traits. No one could confirm the extent, but surviving notes suggest that experimentation was not only psychological but physical. The Fairmonts' interest in genetics bordered on obsession, but its horror lay in the silence that protected it. By 1920, fewer Fairmonts remained. Those who did were increasingly reclusive, their appearances disturbing in subtle ways, elongated fingers, sharp jawlines, eyes that seemed too calculating. Townsfolk whispered about children who were never really children, adults who never truly aged. Even within the family, the obsession with bloodlines and isolation intensified, manifesting in behavior that could be read as ritual, mania, or deep psychological conditioning. The estate itself became a mausoleum of secrecy, fear, and genetic terror. In 1935, a historian stumbled upon a set of hidden journals in a boarded-up wing. Written in a mix of Latin, cipher, and archaic symbols, the texts described methods of blood preservation and mental cultivation. They recorded the family's experiments on children and orphans, noting cognitive enhancements, psychological manipulation, and physical deviations. The horror was in the meticulous care. The Fairmonts were not reckless, but deliberate. The journals read as a guide to creating a lineage untouched by ordinary morality or human empathy. Letters from the early 1900s reveal collusion with local authorities and church leaders. Police reports were suppressed. Investigations quietly ended. Even those who suspected the truth were silenced, through fear, bribery, or psychological coercion. The Fairmonts operated above law and ethics, protected by an invisible network of authority. Their crimes were not only hidden, they were systemic, embedded in the structures that should have prevented them. By the 1930s, disappearances were frequent, yet townsfolk rarely questioned them openly. Children, travelers, and even some adults vanished near the estate. Survivors described the same unnerving phenomena. Rooms that seemed to breathe, shadows moving independently, and children who could manipulate or terrify adults with a glance. Psychological trauma became a tool as much as a weapon. The estate itself was alive with observation and intent, a machine of fear designed to shape generations. Reports indicate the Fairmont patriarch's final obsession involved the creation of a perfect line, a culmination of decades of selective breeding, psychological conditioning, and ritualistic manipulation. Witnesses claim the final generation exhibited disturbing features: unnatural intelligence, emotional detachment, and the ability to instill terror without raising a hand. It is unclear what became of them, though the estate's abandonment in the late 1940s suggests failure, or perhaps concealment. By 1950, the estate was empty, left to rot on its hill. Locals avoided it. The air around it was said to carry a metallic scent. Those brave enough to enter reported dizziness, nausea, and intense fear. Objects appeared moved, yet dust remained untouched. The estate had absorbed decades of trauma, and in doing so had become a sentient vessel for the family's obsession. The land itself whispered of horrors that were never fully revealed. The Fairmont family's secret did not die with the estate. Descendants dispersed quietly, some changing names, others disappearing entirely. Researchers and historians who attempt to trace them often encounter dead ends, falsified records, and unexplained phenomena. Whispers persist of children with unnatural traits, eyes too sharp, behavior too precise. The story is less about individual crimes and more about the persistence of trauma, obsession, and corruption across generations. A shadow that refuses to die. Even today, the Fairmont estate stands as a symbol of what lies beneath the surface of American history. The darkness hidden behind civility, piety, and progress. It is a reminder that some families, some obsessions, and some secrets are never meant to be understood. Those who seek the truth risk more than knowledge, they risk themselves. And somewhere, in a line that never truly ended, the Fairmont legacy endures. Silent, calculating, and waiting, a testament to humanity's capacity for horror when morality and obsession collide.